In discussions about wrestling, people often forget to point fingers at the right culprit. A lot of times, something called network effects take place, and as the problem keeps getting bigger, people become more and more distracted. And oftentimes, the true culprit is hidden behind a veil of ignorance of the masses of dumbass WWE fans. Cuckstis. So with that being said, hater on the road, rant time, strap in, cucks. The WWE and wrestling as a whole, in my opinion, has a date when they were diagnosed with what I now perceive as a terminal illness. This date, coincidentally, is the date that I started this channel. Maybe a few days before that. But it was the announcement of AEW, right? And arguably the first episode of AEW, and maybe the All-In show before that, right? Some nerds named Cody Rhodes and the Young Cucks decided to do their own show. Normally, I'm all cool with this. I like competition, and fundamentally, I like wrestling. So seeing more wrestling is always a good thing. I remember being hyped about this because I thought to myself, well, maybe some healthy competition will do well for wrestling. Nah, motherfucks. I was obviously wrong about this completely, okay? The exact opposite thing happened. This began the era of the cuckster himself, Cody Rhodes, being shoved down our throats. For those that don't know or perhaps forgot, Cody Rhodes was an undercard jobber nobody with various stints in the mid-card, in the lower mid-card, might I add. Cody Rhodes was never presented as anything more than a mid-card jobber. Then the shit hits the fan. He becomes a jobber when he unveils Stardust. People were saying, oh, Stardust is going to be a massive star. And they were obviously wrong about Stardust, but they were not that wrong about the cuckster himself. Because at the end of the day, Cody Rhodes did it, motherfucks. He did it on his own. But he didn't deserve it, and in doing so, he ruined wrestling, right? In order for Cody to be a main eventer, everything else had to get worse by comparison. You cannot have someone like Cody in the main event and expect wrestling to be overall good. It's just not possible. We've seen this when wrestling was better and Cody Rhodes was an undercard nobody, right? See what I'm getting at here? Cucks. Fundamentally, Cody Rhodes and the Young Cucks decide to put themselves over because no one will. Now, in some ways, that's admirable, right? Nobody wants you to be a star, so you make yourself a star. In a fake sport like wrestling, where there's actually no real skill involved, this is the right way to do it, right? You want to promote yourself. It's all about the money, like Vince McMahon said, right? The same way that Vince McMahon can create Hulkamania, you can maybe create your own version of Hulkamania. And hell, you can even create your own company. But what happened was this. After Cody Rhodes goes to the indies, he has meaningless indie jobber matches that nobody cares about. Other wrestlers like Kurt Angle leave TNA, and they have meaningless jobber matches against Cody in the indies as well. Fundamentally, if it didn't happen in the WWE, it didn't happen at all. Yet here we are, it did happen. So what happens after it happened, cucks, is Tony Khan, the biggest mark of all time, decides to invest in a company. But recognizing that he has no connections, and he quite frankly has no idea what the fuck he's doing, he elicits the help of Cody Rhodes and the Young Cucks to create AEW, as well as Kenny Omega, Cody Omega, the cuckolds, right? These guys become executive vice presidents in name only, but they have some pull backstage. And what happens then is they start hiring their friends. We get to see stars like Michael Nakazawa, Brandy Rhodes, Yuka Sakazaki, people that should never be on television except for Brandy Rhodes, who should be on television doing other things that have to do with being attractive and have nothing to do with wrestling. Nevertheless, the point is that these people effectively took power over a segment of the wrestling audience. And on the other side of the coin, in WWE, the person that's going to go down as one of the biggest dorks and biggest cucks of all time, Paul Levesque, who formerly used to be Triple H. When he was Triple H, he was intelligent enough to surround himself with cooler people than him, so that by comparison, he didn't come off as the ultimate dork that he obviously is. Then, that shit hit the fan, and he decided to surround himself with dorks and yes men, worse than Vince McMahon ever did. He hired his friends, he promoted his friends, and as a result, he fell for the trick, motherfucks. He fell for the lie. Cody Rhodes and the Young Cucks and Cucky Omega were perpetrating the lie. Triple H was being fed the lie, and he devoured it. He ate it up like a dumbass. In the middle of the circle jerk is also Dave Meltzer, who bears an honorable mention as to how Cucky Rhodes ruined wrestling. But basically, the culture of wrestling shifted. Instead of sticking to what works, which Triple H should be very well aware of, but apparently he isn't, Triple H instead went with what he thought would work. And he was wrong. And what he thought was going to work was fat-ass losers like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn inundating our television day in and day out. After this, other losers started coming from the other company. We started seeing people being pushed that under a Vince McMahon-led NXT would never see the light of day. I'm talking about vanilla jobbers like Apollo Crews, who's honestly the best one of the bunch. They're like, oh, this guy's great in the indies. The sentence, this guy is great in the indies, has never been followed up with a modicum of success in the mainstream, except for arguably Seth Rollins and Daniel Bryan, who, like Cody Rhodes, had to make himself. Now, after people like Apollo Crews, we started scraping the bottom of the barrel even more. And at every turn, the haters said to people, this is a bad idea, this guy's not going to draw a dime. But despite that, Finn Balor was hired. This guy's a bad idea, he's never going to draw a dime. And despite that, Gargano and Ciampa were hired. This guy's a fucking jobber, he's never going to draw a dime. Look at him, he comes out wearing a fedora. But despite that, Andrade got a job. And by far, the biggest culprit of all of this is when they started recruiting from TNA, which is where all the losers went. So all of a sudden, people are clamoring for this jobber called Karrion Kross. Everyone fell under the mass psychosis of believing that this guy was good. I don't know how else to explain it. There's absolutely nothing about this guy that screams star. He's got one expression, he's boring as shit, and every promo he cuts, it's him yelling and complaining, kind of like the hater, except without the charisma. So after all this circle jerkery goes down, the situation is prime. We've got all these jobbers making their way to TNA. We got some good ones in the midst. Eric Young, extremely underrated. Bobby Roode, should have done better. But then we also have a lot of Nakamura's out there who never drew a goddamn dime, even though they were pushed. And then the stage is set. Cody Rhodes starts a company where every week this asshole comes and promotes himself. The entire purpose of Cody Rhodes being part of that, and I gotta give him props, he's a piece of shit in terms of like his selfishness, but he did it for himself and it worked. He came out there and all he did was promote himself. He buried everybody. No stars were made in that shithole of a company, right? Even in the MJF feud that he lost, he came out looking like the good guy and like the winner. Meanwhile, people like Jericho, who are now getting booed because they've overstayed their welcome, these guys actually tried to make this company something. Cody Rhodes just promoted himself, and you have to consider, Jericho was coming off of a successful short stint in WWE and went to a very successful New Japan stint. Now again, Cody Rhodes going to New Japan and feuding with Marty Scurll is not impressive. Nobody gives a flying fuck about either of these guys. Jericho, a former WrestleMania main eventer and multiple-time WWE champion and legend, first ever undisputed champ, going to New Japan is a big deal. So these people tried to make this company happen. Cody Rhodes promoted himself. The Young Bucks and Kenny Omega also promoted themselves, but to lesser success because they didn't have the same lack of scruples that Cody did. Cody Rhodes put over his untalented, albeit attractive wife. He put over his dumbass dog. This dog got more TV time than like fucking Will Hobbs, who should have been a star. The dog got more TV time than Wardlow. But anyways, he put over an aging, boring, and quite frankly, always overrated Arn Anderson. He put over his friends. He put over everyone but the people that probably deserved it. There is no reason why people like Wardlow and Powerhouse Hobbs should be on the back burner while jobbers like Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Sammy Guevara, who will never amount to anything in this business, became, quote unquote, the pillars of the company, along with that failure MJF, who, by the way, I called as well. By this time, 5 years ago, they would have us believe that MJF would be main eventing WrestleManias. And MJF is now a jobber in AEW. Does he even wrestle anymore? Who the fuck cares? AEW became what it was destined to be. And that is a graveyard for aging wrestlers who want a payday. Good. The smart ones like Sasha Banks have been stringing this idiot along for millions of dollars despite being unable to draw around 500,000 people consistently. Unacceptable numbers. The smart ones in AEW were like, oh great, I can use this platform to be seen by dumbass Triple H, who will sign anybody who has a theme song you can cheer to. So that's why people that got signed from AEW are now in WWE. Some of them are whatever. Some of them are not that big of a deal in terms of like, whatever, they're not going to draw any money, but they're probably getting paid like $40K a year, like Lexus King, you know what I mean? And quite frankly, he's not that bad. But then you got people that used AEW. Primarily, of course, the subject matter of this video, Cody Rhodes. But don't get it twisted. Another big culprit of this is CM Punk. CM Punk was a nobody. People pretend that he was having this successful career, just like AJ Lee came out and she was like, I followed my passions. Shut the fuck up, you didn't do dick. You know what I mean? CM Punk was out there getting his ass beat in UFC. The first time it was a novelty act. Half the people tuned in to see WWE exposed. The other half tuned in to see CM Punk because they hadn't seen him. And after they saw him, nobody wanted to see him anymore. Next I see of this asshole, he's on the Challenge All-Stars, which is a spin-off of The Challenge, which is a good show, getting his ass beat there by superior people. Then he's the host of some Ultimate Beastmaster throwaway Netflix reject project. He's one of like the 15 hosts. This guy was not having this successful career. He tried making money other things, failed miserably, came back to wrestling. Tony Khan and Cody Rhodes opened their assholes, and in came CM Punk. Then what happened? Because the assholes were already opened, Triple H said, oh, I know how to open my asshole. So he did the same. And now CM Punk is in WWE stealing money from this company as the ratings continue to go down, proving once and for all that Triple H, not Paul Levesque, was right about this guy not being a draw. That Vince McMahon was right about telling CM Punk, look kid, you're not going to be in the main event because you're not a main eventer. You see what I'm getting at, dumb fucks? The point here is this. AEW got all the WWE rejects who were able to leverage their rejectdom and be hired by Triple H and be put in main events. Cody Rhodes, because I do not count the night one of WrestleMania. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns, who also sucks ass now, is carrying this shit company called WWE. Instead of making a new star, they dip into the pool, they dip into the well one too many times, and out comes the cuckster. And Cody Rhodes comes out, and now he's the biggest star. Think about what the fuck has just happened. Cody Rhodes has leveraged himself being a jobber correctly. He said, I am a jobber in WWE, which means I am a massive star everywhere else. When the hater went to an indie show like the first time, he saw the very underrated, might I add, Steven Richards, who was a perennial lifetime jobber in the WWE. He didn't get what he deserved. But that's the story that we're going with here. That's the moral of the story too. Steven Richards, motherfuckers. Steven Richards was a slightly bigger deal in TNA. He had prominent matches, but he was still an undercard guy. In the indies, he's a quasi-main eventer, right? I go to an indie show, he's an attraction. He's winning like he's beating all the indie guys. Cody did the same thing. Then the problem is, the counter adjustment didn't happen. Because what happens is this. Vince McMahon says, oh, great. This guy's good in the indies. I don't give a fuck. That's what happened to the Good Brothers. They're like, oh, it's the best tag team in the indies. They come out there. He's like, no, I don't think so. I think New Day's better. Fuck them. Fuck the Good Brothers. Fuck them all, right? So that's what happens. That's what's supposed to happen. And if you're actually excellent in the indies, and you happen to be excellent in WWE, then you become excellent. Like, the example I can think of is Seth Rollins. Not a good example, I agree, but nevertheless. But what happened was, Cody Rhodes was mediocre in WWE. He went to the indies where he was still mediocre, but he was presented as excellent. He leveraged this into the second company, AEW, where he became the centerpiece, even though he wasn't the champion. The whole purpose of AEW was, look, we have a champion and it's not Cody. You'd expect it to be Cody because this is all about him, but it's not him. So there you go. Then after that, somehow, the transitional period didn't go like it was supposed to. Cody didn't come to WWE as a mid-carder. He came in as a main eventer, even though he wasn't a main eventer in anything else he'd ever done. Somehow, despite having zero main event experience, he was a mid-carder in New Japan, he was a mid-carder in AEW, he was a mid-carder in the Indies, and he was a jobber in WWE. So what do we do with him? I know, make him a main eventer. In order for this to happen, incredible effort has to be placed on protecting Cody Rhodes. And this effort has led to the complete deterioration of the wrestling product. The people in charge are afraid that even a jobber like Gunther can overcome Cody if he's on TV enough times. So they write his ass off TV. The Rock would have stolen the show if he was at WrestleMania in the main event. Everybody here knows that if WrestleMania 40 involved The Rock and Roman Reigns, this would be a great match that we would be talking about fondly now. Instead, we got the forgettable and irrelevant Cody Rhodes-Roman Reigns match and the subsequent Cody Rhodes-Cena match, which will go down as the worst real main event in WWE history, in my opinion. With that being said, motherfuckers, and everything else since then has been an attempt to correct, right? They made Cena slow and boring and put that in the main event. So then they do an exciting match with Cena against Cody and an exciting match against AJ Styles, trying to overcompensate for their mistakes. But the biggest mistake here, I mean, CM Punk is a close second, but the biggest mistake here is Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes doesn't deserve the praise that he has gotten. And the worst part of it all, motherfuckers, is that it's gotten to his head. Cody Rhodes now fundamentally believes that he is a big deal, right? He believes that he is someone who is to be taken seriously. He believes that he is someone that must be respected. And he believes that he has a finger in the future of this wrestling. At the center of this, there is a hoodwinking that has happened, right? And you can blame Triple H for getting hoodwinked, but you also got to blame the guy that did the hoodwinking, which is a combination of Dave Meltzer and Cody Rhodes. In collusion or not, they set up the scenario where Cody Rhodes is presented against all cumulative evidence as a big deal. And in doing so, they rammed their fist up our ass, and now we are puppets, meat puppets, forced to watch this garbage. So take that for what it is, cucks, and go fuck yourselves, and go fuck Cody Rhodes, and Tony Khan, and Triple H, and Nick Khan, and everybody else involved in ruining the thing that all of us loved growing up. Fuck Cody Rhodes, he ruined everything.